wish a happy International Women's Day to all wonderful ladies which are there in this particular webinar. And first of all, I would like to thank Dr. Seema Khanna, because she has all the way from Germany. She is here with us, and I'm really happy that all the ladies and all of us will get your message, Seema. See, basically, in fact, in the morning also we had a small function at NIXI, and I said that for every hour in NIXI we celebrate Women Day, because we believe that women are not only equal partner, but they are the strength of any organization, any family, any nation. Yes, there are some disparities in the digital area. We have seen in 5G also, like broadband user, there is a gender divide. Ladies are having less access to mobile and 4G and 3G than men. Similarly, they have there are several areas in India where even ladies are not allowed to touch mobile. That is something unfair, and it is really bad. And we personally feel that you people are the you can say the basic strength of the society. And if the basic strength is not strong, then society cannot be strong. So I personally feel the time has come when all of you who are in the digital age, helping the whole nation to become digital, you are the right people who can give the right message to the ladies, to the nation, and to the people in this area. So thank you very much for joining us and celebrating International Women's Day with NIXI. Over to you, Seema, because you have to lead the whole webinar and we will be only listening. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that very wonderful thoughts. And I wish we had a world full of men like you. फिर आज ये conversation ही नहीं हो रही होती. But thank you, sir. And आपने जैसे बोला कि phone नहीं है ladies के पास. At the end of the day, it always boils down to empowering a woman, because an empowered woman would actually ensure that she has a phone in her hand, that she's not deprived of the digital connect, which the counterpart in her life, her husband, her son, has it, and she does not have it, and she will feel deprived. But thank you for these introductory remarks, sir. And before I go to the lovely ladies who have joined with us, I would just like to say one thing here, that I hope I'm alive to see that we do not keep a day separate for women. The very fact that we have an International Women's Day reflects how marginalized we have been over the centuries. That let me tell you,
Seema, we were discussing whether we are the way the women are growing and empowering. There may be a International Men Day after 10 years or 20 years,
I hope I'm alive to see that. I hope I'm alive to see that.
And ladies, before I'll just take one more minute. Let me introduce Dr. Seema Khanna. Dr. Seema Khanna is a graduate from my college, Delhi College of Engineering. She is playing a very nodal role in building the digital infrastructure in the country, whether it is NICNET, whether it is NKN, whether it is NII, and she is involved in several projects. And in fact, NIXI is fortunate that she is with us in several projects, and we are proud. And on this International Women's Day, I wish that she should become DG NIC as fast as possible. Seema, over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. You made my day and my year. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. With this, I would like to take this conversation forward. And I would, before I voice and echo my thoughts on empowering women, because at the end of the day, internet is just a tool. The way I view it, today's topic is empowering women with the use of internet. Internet for me is a tool. An empowered woman would use any tool available at her disposal to achieve her end objective. Of course, Today, in today's world, digital connectivity is the most powerful tool, but the key conversation revolves around empowering a woman to reach out for what she needs, empowering her to know that she needs to use internet to achieve what she wants in her life. The clarity that an empowered woman has to change the world, to change the future roadmap of the country, comes from the internal strength of a woman. I know the battles I have fought. If I've been very fortunate not to fight too many of them, because I'm quite ferocious as they come, but I've not fought too many of them. But because I've had a very supportive and conducive environment, and I would like to believe that I've made it supportive and conducive because I felt I was empowered to change the ecosystem around me. I did not take no for an answer. I fought for what I thought was right. I could be in the wrong, but I believed it was right. So I fought for it. So, and I've been doing that for the 27 years of my career, and I think, likely to continue. And I've passed that on to the next generation. I've been blessed with two lovely girls, and they're more ferocious because they're the next generation. So they're the 6G, 7th G avatar of internet. But with these opening remarks, I would like to start with the ladies. I would like to hear you first. So Swati, can we start with you and hear your thoughts? Because you're the first name that has been given to me by NIXI, so I'm going in that same order. You were not there. So we are starting with you, Swati. I hope you're okay with that. We would love to hear what you say before we go to the next panelist, and I interject in between. Over to you, Swati. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Seema, and thank you, Anil sir. This is great that we all are coming together to talk about a topic that is very pertinent today, given that, you know, with India's growth and growing population, women, 50% women are going to play a significant role. I've understood that even the elections in UP is getting turned because of the women's vote, and that just shows the power that women can naturally exercise if they have the right level of confidence. So coming to the topic of today, when it comes to women and in a society where internet is getting adopted so fast, I think it's very important that we reflect upon, and I'm sure it's happening, but also, like, you know, reflect upon a very structured and an unstructured way to approach, you know, women and their success. So if I broadly put forth a few views here, I would say that even organizations, and I come from an organization that employs a lot of women, I'd like to touch upon the huge working force that works with organizations. They can play a significant role in ensuring that there is parity between men and women and diversity at large. So for example, an organization like mine, and I would like to share that I'm with the United Health Group. It's a healthcare Fortune 5 organization, very sensitive to the needs of diversity. So we have actually incentivized our leaders, and I'm using the word incentivize versus force. Incentivize our leaders to create platforms and an environment that is healthy for women. So to start with, when you talk about hiring, returned to work, which means women who have got breaks actually get an advantage in our company, right? And they are flexible timings, they are, you know, they are opportunities of growth in our company. But the important thing is we recognize, in spite of having 30,000 employees in the country and 3 lakh across the world, we recognize that we should not be the only one that hires women who come from return from work. So there's a program that we have extended into our vendor organizations and our supplier organizations to ensure that the funnel that we are getting from a return to work actually extends out there. In addition, I must, you know, confess, we had 100 women from a return to work just recently join us, which is a great, you know, it's a great place to be. That is just one aspect of a structured organization, but even from a leadership aspect, we are running a program called as Breaking the Bias. Other than sensitizing leaders across men, and I'm using the word across men and women, even women sometimes have issues of hiring women. So men and women breaking biases by not only taking them through formal training, networking sessions, but also our talent acquisition team ensures that we don't even highlight the name and gender of the person when we are showing capabilities and skilling. It's very important that they reach to a certain level before they drop off because of their capabilities. So capability first, and then choice and priority, right? And you'll be amazed to know that because of the breaking of the bias in one team, for example, 58%, 7,000 member team, 58% are women at the senior most to the junior most across the spectrum. In addition, I'd like to share, and I know I'm taking too much of time, I'd like to share so many things that the company can do, but also women like us, women who are in leadership. We've got to recognize we need to create a conducive environment for the young leaders to come on board. And that is something which I feel is we can make a difference in, and we really need to do something fast. Subi and I have had discussions in the past where we believe that unless we get together as a network, and then we involve more of the young into our network and create a constructive mentoring, unstructured, friendly mentoring environment, that's the only way we'll win. Structures will happen, but what are we doing as people? And I think that's where I'd like us to all focus on, to ensure that we have a responsibility that we should adhere to. Last statement I want to make, and I just found this before the panel: be the woman that fixes another woman's crown without telling the world it's crooked. And I think that's the kind of person I would love to be, and I welcome everyone else to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Swati. Those were wonderful thoughts. We would circle back to you after we've heard the other panelists. But I just wanted to take a cue from what you said, and that you use the word conducive, which is a very, very important factor, because we all, I can see that we all are very empowered. At least the women connected today are very empowered, but there's a major section which is not. And they have been deprived of them getting empowered, not only by men, because the general thought that comes to men is men do not allow a woman to get empowered. But we women are equally responsible for not allowing a certain section of women to come forward. I would like to use a typical cliched statement, a classic Indian mother-in-law. Sadiyon se yahi soch chalti aa rahi hai that she is not going to allow a daughter-in-law to step out because she was not allowed to step out. So the catchword here is conducive. We need to create a framework, an ecosystem that allows women to thrive. You are doing some brilliant work in that direction, and I'm very happy to hear that. But I would like to ask, before I go to Subi, that do you think education is a key element in empowering women? How important do you think education is in empowering a woman? Because I was looking up the net just to get my thoughts in order for today's session. And I tried to look up that what is the term that you actually use? What classifies as a woman, under which categories a woman is empowered? So I came across 5 categories. I don't know whether you ladies are aware of this or not, but I read that today the term empowerment can be categorized into 5 heads: social, educational, economic, political, and psychological. Now, I feel that all of them can all be drummed up into one head, that's education. If a woman has education on her side, she generally can figure out the rest of it, because she won't be able to relate that she's being deprived of something unless she knows what she's being deprived of, and she feels a missing need in her life. But you put it very well. And one last question before I move to Subi: how supportive were the ecosystem to you before you launched this endeavor of yours? You had a lot of support in rolling out, come back and all that?
So I did not, I didn't need to avail the return from work, return to work. But
not you personally, the environment that you tried to create for the 100-odd women who returned back to work, you obviously were a key element in creating this framework. So how much of a battle did you have to fight in doing this? Was it a smooth task or was it an uphill task?
See, I'll tell you, the return to work was not much of a battle, only because we played a big role. The company has played a big role in sensitizing the leadership towards inclusion and diversity. So I would almost emphasize on the fact that unless the leaders transform at the top, nothing can work. So once the leaders were transformed and they were almost excited to achieve not only their goals, but play a role in society, return to work was very easy. And the Break the Bias program actually played a big role. So I would say that, this is a combination of a structured and an unstructured conversation, but in principle, we have to change our hearts and minds towards it, which means that even when we are working in office, you have to recognize the societies and the diverse environments that we come from, and that needs to be addressed. I'd like to actually share something, and you touched upon education. So the government is doing a brilliant job in terms of maybe BharatNet or connectivity and, giving access of internet into the hands of women. I was seeing this movie San Kiak. I don't know why I saw it yesterday, but I did. It was amazing, right? It was amazing because you have people of an older generation, women of a much older generation who faced so much of hell, but had the strength and confidence to stand and take decisions, break all barriers. And I think we really need to, showcase, promote testimony of women, even in our workplace and otherwise, who have broken barriers and make heroes out of them, not just one or two, but several hundreds. And that will be the inspiring story. It was easy for me to support the return to work only because we already had a converted population in our organization.
Yeah, you were kind of preaching to the choir. So the mindset actually needs to change. I mean, like Sir mentioned,
Yes.
that I'm at the moment in London, but I was in Germany till last night. My daughters are here. So when I was in Germany, I read a quote somewhere about Adolf Hitler that said the goal of a female education must invariably be the future mother, because we are the mothers who need to empower. We are the mothers who need to empower the next generation. So the Adolf Hitler had a very checkered past, but I think one of the few things that he got right was perhaps this one. Even so many years back, he knew that woman, you have to empower her if you want the next generation to grow. So with this brief input, thank you, Swati. I would now move to
Absolutely.
Subi. Subi, over to you. Your thoughts, please, on what we're talking about today.
Thank you so much, Doctor. It is such a pleasure and an honor. Just before we started and we went live, I was saying that it's a delight to be sharing this panel with women who've come such a long way, women who are fellow travelers. And I want to thank Anilji for putting the panel together. Kudos to Shubham and the entire team at NIXI. It is not what we do every single day. The reason that Nobel Committee gives the Peace Prize to people is for putting the spotlight on an issue which needs more affirmative action. And I think we've had a lot of debate saying, why just one day? Why do we still isolate a single day? It's not that we're doing it to tell people that today is the only day that we're recognizing women. We're telling people that this is an issue that deserves a spotlight, that deserves concerted action. And there's just so much more that all of us can do together. It's been a very personal journey. Unlike you, Seema, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a techie. I did my PhD from the IIT Delhi. I was a professor in LSR. I've been on both sides of the table. I've been a senior president with Yes Bank. I currently head, and this is a very interesting story. I head public policy and corporate affairs for India's first startup, which became the first unicorn in the country. It's also the first investee company of SoftBank. And now recently it's become a unicorn twice over. We have investments from Google, and this started from the campuses of IIT Kanpur. And I'm so proud to see around me that most of our senior leaders are all women. So they started as part of, as interns and trainees in the founder's office, but the emphasis that we put on making sure that you put in the ladder, making sure that you pass the mic around is just so critical that it's now part of InMobi's culture. And that's what we celebrated this morning through our Winspire program, where we are creating cohorts to encourage the next level of leadership. So this is a mission that me and Swati at least have dedicated our lives to. Between ourselves, I chair the committee of WICI for Women in Technology, Policy and Leadership. And the intent is to look at younger women and making sure, Seema, to put things in context, that we're not competing with companies anymore. We're competing with countries. Can we then afford to have half of our population out of the workforce? It's just setting ourselves up for failure. So as our Prime Minister's outlined the road for the $5 trillion economy roadmap, how is it that you can possibly exist without seeing women not only coming out, but discovering an ecosystem that works for each of us, that sets them up for success? And we're not just saying that because it's a great thing to say or it's a feel-good experience or a wonderful statement to make. You hit the nail on the head when you talked about education. Our girls in STEM, the numbers need to go up dramatically. Internet and mobile phones, among others, are vital for achieving sustainable development goals by 2030. And Canada's IDRC has actually been researching this over and over for several years through a long-term study, where they're saying that SDG targets will foster economic growth, and they will improve governance, and they'll deliver better outcomes if you have more women in STEM. When you look at some of the positive effects of digital innovation, it is talking about not just bridging digital divide that Anilji referred to in the beginning. It's about amplifying economic and social opportunity and with equity. When we say treat everyone with equality, we know that different people are at different points and different journeys in their lives. So what is it that we need to do? We need to make sure that we're creating enabling policies. We're making sure that our policies, both in corporates as well as in the government, are gender guillotined. They look at opportunities with all things being equal to ensure that women have a leg up when it comes to leadership roles. When we're looking at compliances, and we both are in the functions of risk, we treat risk as opportunity. We thrive in adversity. And that's the ability of women to think laterally, to think more inclusively. There is so much that we have to celebrate. So what we're hoping to do, and I'm putting the spotlight on Anilji today as the CEO of NIXI, is to create and work together towards building a goal. And I hope with your leadership at NIC, that we build a program that's not just meeting when it's occasions like this. We're looking to improve governance of the cyberspace. We want to make sure that cyberspace is more inclusive, because the topic of the day is how is it that internet can empower women. We want to make sure that we're connecting people in Global South to the online sphere. We're ensuring equal economic opportunity by testing and scaling digital innovations that will actually help in improving entrepreneurship, education, and democracy. So what can we do and how do we go about it? Looking at access is a big issue. When we're looking at cheap data, when we're bringing, so Digital India was a turning point. I've been a student of media and society, and I don't think any other government anywhere across the world has been ambitious in scaling the true benefits of the JAM Trinity. So Jandan, Mobile, and Aadhaar, and the way we structured our three pillars, this is what is driving champion initiatives. And if we add another layer of code for girls, if we create more positive role models and we celebrate these stories, and that's why days like these are important. That is why NIXI's initiative to bring all of us together on a panel, do this webinar, needs to be celebrated, because young girls need more positive role models. They need to celebrate Ishas and Seemas and Shivis and Swatis of the world. So we need to keep knocking at doors relentlessly. It's a fight that women who came before us have fought, and we're talking about breaking the bias. All of us suffer from some unconscious biases. We're known to not negotiate hard enough for our salaries. We're known to be shy about negotiating hard enough for our incentives or promotions or asking for that leadership role. So therefore, putting these models out there, making sure that we create access to data and devices, we need to be more tenacious. We need to be more persistent. We need to ask for our space. We need to also claim it, so that not only are we outshining, not just in India, but we're helping India claim its rightful place in the world. And, what has happened is it's turned all established paradigms, Seema, on its head, because we're living in a post-COVID world. So work from home is probably one of the better outcomes of this global pandemic that all of us face together. A lot of women suffered from access, from safety, from mobility issues. And this is where many companies that are following hybrid models, that are ensuring that return to office is a choice, but not a compulsion, are allowing us to bring more women into the workforce. So more modern communication tech arrangements, abilities to collaborate, making sure that we're narrowing the gender gap, we are greater in enhancing both formal as well as informal participation of women in the labor force. This is the special day. This is the future that we are looking for. So you'd be amazed to know that, the Peterson Institute actually talks about all corporate that crossed the 30% female labor force barrier. They have demonstrated a hard increase of at least 15% in profitability. They have multiplicity of views. They have plurality of objectives. And investors like BlackRock have been talking about relating business goals with purpose and impact. So we are not just talking about numbers, we're talking about funding, we're talking about better user-centric design when women are in charge, when women lead, and we're talking about narrowing the gender gap. At least that's the vision and that's the aim that Women in Tech and Leadership Committee was formed with at FICCI, and that's what we hope to work towards. And this is where, you know, there's so much that has happened over the last year in India that we need to celebrate. I'll just take 2 more minutes to make sure that we remember that over 90% of employees at Foxconn are today women. They're at the floor, they're assembling handsets. Lieutenant Shivangi Singh has made us proud by becoming a Rafale fighter pilot over the course of last year. We have had such tremendous success in seeing sainik schools now opening up to girls. There are women-led startups, for example, at IIT Delhi, who've created a 100-megapixel camera. They've brought down costs. They're looking at portable water for the Navy from IIT Madras. These are all women-led startups. And we've been fortunate enough to be part of some of these stories, having mentored startups at the Atal Innovation Mission in Niti Aayog. What we're together now talking about is ensuring women are equal, making sure that we're celebrating this impact and we're amplifying this impact. So rural entrepreneurship is one of the aspects where we're hoping to put our heads and minds together. At Roposo, which is also part of InMobi, we're looking at influencer commerce. How is it that women can decide and impact your purchase-making decisions? We're looking at other startups that are now talking about hyper-local commerce, things that we've relished, you know, I come from a city like Lucknow where it was about culture, it was creativity. And with India, you also have a lot of engineering talent. So when you put brilliant minds together, that is the path forward that we want to celebrate for future of work and future of jobs. I'll stop here for now. And thank you again for having me on this panel. It's been an absolute delight and a complete pleasure.
Thank you, Subi. I can see how passionate you are, and I share the same passion. You know, I really like it when women can speak up their mind, can ask for what's rightfully theirs. Yes, you have touched upon a point that somehow centuries of subjugation has led us to believe that we should not come forward and claim what we think is rightfully ours, and there's something that holds us back. It's women like us who are connected today. We are here today because we did not let that thought deprive us of what we thought was rightfully ours. We need to pass it on. We need to eliminate more people in that. So that's a very, very nice, I mean, I'm very impressed with the work you're doing. And if any which way I can contribute, please, you can connect with me at any time after this, and I'll be very happy to be part of it. I feel the STEM part that you touched upon, that is, somehow, because I have a lot of presentations from many industry that come to us, and it's something that always bothers me is that the technical presentation, the hardcore technical presentation, is generally given by the men. There are very few women who come and give the hardcore technical presentation, and it's always been bothering me. I said, how odd does it look that is a technical woman who's taking the presentation, but the person presenting it is a man and is not woman? So I actually asked that question from a very good leader, an IT company, that why don't you have more women who come and give the technical presentation? And he actually didn't have an answer. And that baffled me more. I said, haven't you ever asked yourself this question, that why are technical women not coming and presenting? You know that you're going to present to a person who's hardcore technical, who happens to be a woman. So why don't you have more technical? He has yet to come back to me with an answer on that, but I did give him some food for thought.
Fantastic. More power to you.
Yeah, I did. I said, next time, please, at least when you come and present, you've come with a 10-member team sitting here trying to influence my decision, and you're trying to influence a woman without having any woman in your crew. That is not how things are supposed to operate. At least show a gender equality. But you have touched upon a very key topic. You know, I would like to consider I'm not a fossil yet. But when I went into engineering, you said you're not an engineer, but that is no way a testament to how women are doing. Engineering is just one vertical, you know, everybody is just. So when I got admission into Delhi College of Engineering, my mother, like I said, an empowered woman, gives birth to and ensures her daughter remains empowered. So I'm talking about so many years back. And when I got admission in Delhi College of Engineering, the male folk in my family said, wo to male dominated field hai. You know, I was a barely 17-year-old, and I at that time also was pretty vocal about what I thought. But at that time, I could not fight for what I thought was right. It was my mother who stepped in and she said, so her simple statement I remember was, so why can't she do it? We were just 9 girls in my class, but today all 9 of us, by God's grace, are doing brilliantly well. They're doing brilliantly well. So that one step that we took so many years back to get into a so-called male-dominated field did not stop us to hold back. But that's very nice. You touched upon a woman being economically independent. So I believe there's a difference between economic independence and financial independence. Yeah. A financial independence allows a woman to live life on her terms, design her own roadmap. Economic independence can also stem from a feel-good factor that I've got a job. Yeah. A job is not a career. I would like to distinguish, a job is not a career. A job is something that gets you a monthly income, which may not be enough to allow a woman to live life on her terms. She still needs to look at other people in her life too. And you are not truly empowered unless you have the power to design your own life. If you still look at others to help you design your own life, then you're not truly empowered. I'm sure all of us who are connected today do not look at the male counterparts in our life and say, humko ye kharidna hai. I decide mujhe ye chahiye ya nahi chahiye. I decide whether it's too much of a spillover and whether I can budget it or not. Nobody else does that for me. So that is, according to me, financial independence. And that is where women need to eventually lead to. It's not just a job that they want. And this was just before I flew out from India. That was a couple of weeks back. I'm headed back this weekend. My maid, they come from the lower strata of society. We have been blessed by God that we had a conducive environment. I'm sure all of you come from family where your mothers were very supportive. The fathers in your life did not try to stop you. I don't know how many of you, your fathers encouraged you, but they did not stop you. There's a difference in encouraging and not stopping. I'm sure you've been very lucky. Your fathers, your brothers encouraged you. But this maid, the lower strata of the society, she's from an abusive relationship. She had the guts to walk out. It takes a lot of guts for a maid to walk out of an abusive relationship. And that too with 3 kids in tow. And she did that. And I did not celebrate breaking off a relationship. That is sad. You should always invest in a relationship. But what I did rejoice was that woman found the courage to walk out. And imagine if that woman had education ability too. Where would a woman with that mental strength have reached? Yeah. We've been lucky. That's why, according to me, the whole conversation revolves around empowerment means a woman needs to be educated. Education, again, it's not the colloquial term of education, because education translates into knowledge. I mean, even make her native intelligence grow. Absolutely. Even if she does not know how to read, her native intelligence needs to be channelized. Native intelligence in the rural woman is tremendous. Yep. Tremendous. They know how to navigate through life very well, but they don't know what they're navigating. Unko yahi khushi hai ki unko ek kaan ki bali mil gayi sone ki. That should not be their happiness goal. But I love your passion, and please, you can include me in any which way that you can.
Such a pleasure. I'll absolutely take you up on your offer. And we're keeping our fingers crossed for that elevation that Anilji mentioned. So
Anilji, in fact, is an extremely supportive person. He's an extremely supportive person. I've yet to hear a no from him on any endeavor. Absolutely. And I said, sir, ye karna hai. And he said, Seema, hum tumhare saath hai. I've yet to hear a no coming from him. And that itself is such an enabling factor. Not hearing a no. मैं stupid तो हूँ नहीं कि मैं कुछ लेके जाऊंगी with a proposal, but he's there to support it. So he's a champion of all this. But now I would like to go back to Isha. Isha, over to you. Your thoughts, please.
Thank you, Seema. Before I start, just 2 things that I really need to.
You're very dark. I'm sure you're much brighter than what we can see you in.
Really, let me just put on the light. Maybe give me a second.
Yes.
Is it better now?
Much prettier. Please go ahead.
Thank you. So,
go ahead.
First thing, last year when there was a felicitation ceremony at NIXI, I said the exact same thing to Anilji, and I said that, I look forward to a day when we are not, celebrating one day called the International Women's Day, and I hope to see it within my lifetime. And the other thing, and I'm very extremely proud to be a part of an all-women panel, takes me back to this interview by Ruth Bader Ginsburg, where she was famously asked how many women as women judges on the US Supreme Court would be enough. And she's like, why not all 12 of them? You know, we've been having all 12 male judges forever. So yeah, and this is my first all-female panel. So extremely, extremely proud to be part of this strong team of women. And sitting here, I think I speak from a position of immense privilege. I grew up in a family where I had the luxury of not knowing what gender norms are. I speak from a position of privilege because I have a partner who knows when I have a deadline, he has to make the meals. But I also understand that not enough women, even within this so-called privileged bracket, are able to do that. And for that, we need to have a very empathetic leadership around, you know, and no form of inclusion will be complete unless and until we take into account the social context and cultural realities. And I'm not sitting on this pedestal and I'm nobody to judge. I'm nobody to judge anybody on their circumstances. I've been extremely fortunate to have had those empathetic leaders very early on in my career. Again, secondly, I also feel that when we talk about a supportive ecosystem, I would want to spend 2 minutes in the offline space, because building up on what Swati said, I think we need to create safe spaces for women. Even today, women do not really report sexual harassment cases. And it is very easy for you to be sitting on and pontificating and saying, why not? Or you should be strong enough. But that to me is victim blaming. You are again not taking into account the various reasons that go behind it. Therefore, we need to have systems and frameworks in place that take into account all of these spaces. Cannot emphasize enough of having women and empathetic leaders around, because I say this because for some part in my career, I was a part of an female member team at ICRI, and we used to do telecom and technology policy, and there were 4 females and 1 male, and the safe space that we enjoyed. Again, not taking away the fact that men can be feminists, not taking away from the fact that I've encountered women and the internalized misogyny that they sort of have because of the patriarchal mindsets that we all come from. And I think the first step towards acknowledging that is that none of us is free from those biases. None of us is, free from a lot of conditioning that has happened right from the time we were born. You talked about psychological independence. A lot of that psychological independence is also in the way your neural pathways have been trained. And those neural pathways, in a lot of times, are trained based on the social cues that you pick up. A 3-year-old girl, when she goes and gets a glass of water, she'll know that she's been appreciated. And that is the social cue that she's picking up, and how that then goes on to perpetuate this endless cycle of gender norms. Coming back to the topic is like empowering women with the internet, and why is internet so important? And I'm very glad that Subhi sort of talked about how, post-COVID world, lack of access is actually exclusion. If you do not have access, you do not have access to education, you do not have access to health, your ability to integrate, your ability to communicate with people out there, that's all gone out of the window. Things are improving, and I hope, we can all integrate again. Maybe next year we'll have this in an offline mode. But today, if someone does not have access to internet, that person will stumble or will fall back behind this workforce that we want to create. And the numbers that, are out there are really not, and they're not surprising. Again, as you, I think, correctly put in, an empowered woman would be empowered even in the digital space. So they're not surprising to say, if I say that 25% women own a smartphone today. And to me, the conversation seems to stop many a times on access. We do not really go a step beyond and talk about usage. My ability to have a smartphone will not tell you or indicate whether I'm able to meaningfully use that technology. And why aren't women able to use is, again, coming back to that same concept that you talked about, is because, there are usage constraints. those usage constraints are shaped by our social context, by our economic context. You have women who, even if they have access to a mobile phone, and there is enough research and more that says that they are being surveilled, their agency is hardly there, because male family members use their mobile phones. They have to share their passwords, so on and so forth. And the other part is that, as I said, if women do not report enough about sexual harassment in the offline space, even in the online space, then that magnifies even more. So there was this research that said that only 38% of women are on these social platforms, these open platforms, as opposed to the closed applications that they would still use on their phones. And one of the biggest factors is that they're scared of cyberbullying, cyber violence. And there was a research which said that 50% of women in their lifetime has faced sexual abuse or cyber violence in online spaces. Now, what does that do? Not only does it sort of create a chill effect on those 50%, but the other part of the population that hears about it is just hesitant. Even if they sort of, are part of the process, and if they've faced abuse, I think IT for Change did a study in 2019 where they said around 360 women, had a survey of 360 women, out of only 10% had reported even when they had been a victim. And the reason was lack of knowledge, yes, anxiety, yes, but the other part of it was that this onus of this shame, this burden of shame and this reputational harm is just so rampant and so deeply entrenched in a woman's psyche that first they feel that I am to be blamed. Second, they feel that if I go home and tell a paternal figure or my father or my brother, they're just going to snatch away my mobile phone and this is my right to opportunities. Apart from that, how I personally feel that in this digital era that we're living in, this also impedes their ability to build their social capital. Today, a lot of what we are going to be doing in this decade and next will also be on the networks that we are able to build by meaningfully engaging with these digital technologies. And unless and until women are able to exercise that right as freely as they should, it's never going to happen. So, okay, so I've done this, laid out all the problems, what the solutions could be. One is, of course, digital literacy, and I cannot sort of emphasize enough about it. But the other thing I think we need to also understand is that gender sensitive digital literacy. So I think Internet Sathi, like Tata Trust along with Google started this Internet Sathi project where they sort of, and that has sort of created great inroads. And I think this is where the private sector and government has to come hand in hand. Public-private partnership has to come hand in hand to be able to do a gap assessment, see where the gaps are, and then mitigate those gaps by, again, literacy, and also create certain applications or use technology and tech design to mitigate some of these harms. And why does technology design become important? Some of these social media platforms, and there's a lot of talk now happening that they have to sort of effectively thwart abuse, trigger mechanisms in place, but they're not really working or not working at the level that we want them to work. So we need to have frameworks in place that do that. Secondly, gender norms even get perpetuated in these online, gig economies and gig platform workers. You have feminization of work. So women are care work. You'll still see more women being a part of it, as opposed to the mobile aggregator economy, for Ola cab drivers. You'll not have, it's still a male dominated field. Even in terms of the higher paid gig work, you'll see more men sort of getting that opportunity because they have access. Even the mobility part of it is sort of sorted for men as opposed to females. And now what that is doing is it's magnifying some of those biases that we see in the offline spaces. And that to me is sort of also a worrying trend, that what we need to do is, yes, we be cognizant of these gaps that exist in the offline spaces. And second, we also have to actively try and ensure that these gaps do not get mimicked into online spaces. And that has to happen hand in hand, because ultimately what will happen is you're going to miss the bus. You're going to miss the bus because you're already having these algorithms, you're having these you're having this tech design which is perpetuating and in some cases magnifying those harms. And I think we need to have more conversations around it. We definitely need more women in leadership spaces, but I also feel we need more empathetic leaders, leaders who acknowledge this inequity that has been existing for decades, and then you create policies and you create frameworks. It's just not good enough for us to say that, you have to try harder. Some of us really are unable to try harder. I think with that, I will stop, and thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity.
Thank you, Isha. Thank you. I mean, so it's been so wonderful talking to you, ladies. I can see one more passionate than the other. But you talked about leadership. Now, leadership, I have not worked in the private sectors, but I've read a lot about the typical glass ceiling and all. I'm sure you guys have your own version of it, whether the glass ceiling exists, a woman, and I'm sure all of you have broken it, even if it does exist. I'm sure all of you ladies have broken it. That's why we're having this conversation today. But when I speak on behalf of the government sector, I would like to say it's a much better space. We do not have gender bias, and I've seen it for so many years. Just because I'm a woman, nowhere has it reflected on any act that I've done. Nobody's ever put me down that you're a woman. Never ever. My promotions, the work that I have done, if I could defend what I'm trying to do, there's never been a gender bias in it. My leader today, my director general, is a very strong lady, a very, very, very strong, very clear-minded, a wonderful leader. So government is much more kinder. I've had 2 secretaries in the past, brilliant secretaries, all again women. So government has definitely been kinder. But you again have been emphasizing on how conducive the environment needs to be in trying to make a woman open up, because she has to first take those baby steps before she realizes her true potential. पहला कदम में उसको हाथ पकड़ना पड़ेगा, उसके बाद she'll learn to run. So that hand holding is where all of us need to come together, whether it's the private sector, whether it's the government. But very fact, my opening remarks were that I'm not happy. Why do we have a single day? But yes, it's very right that spotlight needs to be there to emphasize the problem, because just by wishing away a day does not take the problem away. Just because we don't have a day does not mean that women are empowered. Women, that spotlight needs to remain. My only hope is that I do not have a day by the time I leave this world. It's a much better place that I leave for my daughters than what I inherited. But again, we have had such brilliant leaders like my mother. She's a touchwood, an 80-year-old woman, but she's my hero. She's handheld me. And this gender biases thing that you touched upon, जब लड़की छोटी होती है उसको हर कोई गुड़िया खरीद के देता है, उसको मेकानो and Lego खरीद के नहीं देता है. That is so weird. So I remember when I was a child, my father used to always say कि ये लड़की तो शेर है, for the simple reason that I never played with a doll. I somehow always gravitated towards what my brother was playing, and that was a Meccano. We used to have Meccano at that time. I don't know how many of you know there's something like you could play it now. So I used to gravitate towards a Meccano, and I had my own Meccano, and my brother had his own Meccano, and I never had Barbie dolls, or had no dolls for that matter. So this gender bias needs to change. But I need to congratulate you on having a wonderful husband who knows how to cook. Now that's a very rare find. My husband definitely does not know how to
That
cook.
was a non-negotiable when I was getting married. I knew what I wanted.
So you actually have a very upgraded version of a husband with all the customized check boxes, कि खाना बनाना आता है, maid नहीं आई तो झाड़ू भी तुम लगाओगे. So I really like that. I have not been able to tame my husband to that extent or customize him to that extent, but I think I'm going to have a takeaway कि कम से कम चाय बनाना तो सीख लो. Not that I know. I remember this stupid conversation that I had with my husband ages ago, that he brought his shirt and he said, "Isko kaun dhoega?" I said, "मैं तो नहीं धोऊंगी. कोई भी धोएगा, मैं तो नहीं धोऊंगी." I'm not trying to say that washing clothes is bad, but what I'm trying to say is I don't want to do it. Whatever I don't want to do it, I will not do it. Khanna, they're brilliant housemakers, they're brilliant housewives who've made who are living very contented life. The only thing is, empowered means I do what I want to do when I want to do. If I'm happy being a housewife, if I'm happy being a housemaker, I should be happy doing that. If I want to work, go out, build my own space, I should be allowed to do that. I should be able to live life on my terms, be happy doing what I'm doing. मुझे कपड़े धोने नहीं पसंद, मैं नहीं धोऊंगी. That's the only takeaway from that. But now with that, I go to a last speaker. Shivi, all yours.
Lovely. Okay, thank you, Seema, so much. It was amazing listening to all these brilliant speakers today, and I was really awed by all of you and all your accomplishments in the political and corporate sector. And it's really, I doff my hat at all of you. Coming to me, for me, what I've seen is that when we talk of empowering women, so we talk on several verticals, like whether it's economical or it's health or say financial or education. And education has been emphasized a lot by all the panelists today, and which was making me think that what we mean by education. Because according to me, what I've seen is, there's like a huge number of women in India who are all educated. They're graduates, they're postgraduates, they're PhDs, and yet kind of in some ways they feel held back. So their education has not helped them in the way they would want to, because of the indoctrination which and the conditioning which they have received from their right from the very childhood. So हमारे घर में भी होता था कि नहीं, लड़की को पढ़ा तो दो लेकिन नौकरी नहीं करनी. So this was like the education was there, but still they did not lead to their empowerment. And in my own family, I've seen that my aunts, they did become very big great career women, but only after their husbands passed away, because then they had no choice but to really go out and earn and then create a name and place for themselves in the society. So here I feel that why life positive or the philosophy of life positive can play a very important role is that eventually all your education can help you only if it is also tinged with, say, a great amount of self-awareness, which I think is hugely lacking in society, and especially in women. You are educated, you can also earn money provided your husband or your in-laws allow you, and these conditions get placed even before you enter into matrimony. अच्छा पढ़ी लिखी तो हो, लेकिन ऐसा है कि शादी के बाद तुमको नौकरी नहीं करनी है. अच्छा तब तक करो जब तक you're not pregnant and you have a child. So then they feel very pressured, and they even, despite all their education, they're unable to open their mouths, because the society, the way it is structured, it comes down very heavily upon us, and especially this motherhood. It has been eulogized to such an extent that it has become a millstone around the women's neck. So today, for example, if a woman says or wants to place this condition before marrying a man, that I do not want to become a mother, this is something, it will just kind of, you will be written off from the entire say the system of marriage, that you are not eligible. So in a way, our identity is so closely connected with our bodies and the role we think that the nature is meant for us. We need to breed, we need to have children, we need to raise that. It takes precedence over every other thing, whether it's education, it's finance, it's empowerment. So this is where I feel that time has come for women to realize who they actually are. And somehow this discussion needs to move away from, women as, what do you mean by women? I want to say, do you mean your body? Is that how you identify yourself as a woman? If this is where you're coming from, then I think no matter how educated you become, no matter how much money you earn, you will still be limiting yourself. Because when you identify yourself from the point of your gender, so see, the gender is your body, and body will always have its limitations, and therefore this particular conditioning has to be broken at that level, that you are a body, fine, but then you also see that how you have been victimized over centuries because you've been identified by your gender. If you're a woman, so all body-centric work has been forced and thrust upon us by society. You have to learn to cook. So cooking means feeding, and feeding means keeping your body alive. You have to have babies, and because if you're able to have children, the generation will continue. Then you also have to be the prime caregiver of the family, and then what is eventually the caregiving? Look after the bodies, ensure the health of every member of the family, look after the elderly, look after the health of your husband, so it's all body centric, and therefore the woman also begins to realize that being a woman means being a body, and therefore the other aspects like the mind, intellect, talent, and your spiritual sides take a very, this goes somewhere in the, I don't know, it flies out of the window. So this is something where I feel that women need to make a very, very, I think, paradigm shift in their lives, that they need to come out of their body-centric identity, where life positive has played a very crucial role in all these years. So see, we organize workshops, so which is which is focused on helping them heal from within. And when you say helping them heal from within, it means eliminating all those conditionings which have been imposed upon them over centuries and millennia, that you are a woman and this is your role. So when you touch the spiritual aspect of your being, which is higher than the physical, the mental, even the intellectual aspect, so there you find that the real courage, the real, say, the finding of a person happens. Then you realize, okay, this limitation is just forced. And to be very honest, if we all look back to our childhood, so now, did any one of us ever felt when we were young children that we are women? No, none of us felt it. We felt that, hey, we are people. Only when we hit puberty and all of these instructions began to come from all quarters, did we begin to feel, okay, yes, I'm a woman and there's certain do's and don'ts and things which I can do and cannot do because my safety is at risk. So this is one factor. So the gender identification has been used to such an extent to diminish us, to push us back, to keep us confined and restrained, that this is one very important barrier which needs to break. And therefore, when Life Positive talks about being a woman, the Life Positive talks not only in terms of your physicality, but also in terms of your inner self. And when the inner self comes into picture, then you realize, oh my God, I'm a human being. And that is the most important thing the woman needs to realize, come out of the gender identity. Only when you identify yourself as a human being will you feel that you have the right, you can to claim everything which is available to every other person. No household can stop you, no man can stop you, no society can stop you, because that shackle has been broken from within first. You have shattered it. And that is how my own life journey has proceeded, because I come from a small town called Gorakhpur. Okay, so my initial education, everything all happened over there. And it's a very small place. And with all those patriarchal norms very much prevalent over there, and which is hindering and limiting the girls. But I was very fortunate. My father was a very broad-minded person, and he never brought gender into discussion. Whenever he interacted with us, he had big dreams that you have to become famous and you have to become a writer, an author, and all of these blah, blah, blah. Yet at the same time, these injunctions used to come from different separate quarters, and which used to filter into our mind and make us fearful that you are a woman, that there are certain things you can do and not do. But my love for my father was so great that I used to think, should I believe them or him? And if I have to believe in him, then it means there's something more in me which transcends my physical limitation, which was my soul. And that's how I was, my progress in life has been very spiritual in nature. It was so, then I stumbled upon meditation. And when the meditation happened, then I realized, oh my God, I'm an infinite being. I'm limitless. There is nothing which I cannot claim my right upon, which others have right to. And every limitation is of the mind. The society has not only played with a woman's body, but also has fucked with the mind. And therefore, I really kind of do not believe in this particular statement that women are mentally stronger, because I feel that had women been mentally stronger, we would not have been in the situation we are in right now. No, because the mind is stronger than the body, and had your mind been stronger, you would still not be fighting for space and fighting for rights and fighting for recognition. No. So therefore, and how the mind has been indoctrinated by instilling fear that you are the body. So when this this limiting belief gets shattered, then I think the real freedom happens. And this is what we see in the workshops. Life Positive organizes periodical workshops all through the year where healing at very deep level happens. And I'm very glad to share today that it's mostly women who come for these healings. Men, I would say it will be a very landmark time to see men also come. But today the work has begun from the level of women who come, and they're all educated in some, I would say in some manner, even empowered, because they come from very wealthy families, they have money at their disposal, yet they do not have happiness, they do not have autonomy, they do not have the kind of sovereignty they would want for themselves, simply because they are, despite all the education, all the money,
they're caged in.
They are caged in. And so when when you heal them, when you kind of talk to the subconscious mind, when you take them into a certain trance, then all of those things, the layers which are deep within their mind,
they get eroded.
Yes. How my mother had, why, and even those are the sexual exploitation of children, which happens when they're very young. It plays a huge role in determining how they turn out later in life.
Shivi, we're just running out of time a little bit. But it was, but please finish what you were saying.
I'll just finish.
Yeah,
So when you say now, so okay, now say you, so this sexual victimization, this sexual predation has happened at the level of a small child. Now the girl has grown up, she is now educated, yet that fear is so deeply ingrained in her mind that it stops her from moving ahead. So when we go down to those layers, when we unravel all those experiences which are lying very deeply embedded in her mind, then she begins to open, this had happened, and this, I'm still carrying that element of unforgiveness towards my perpetrator. Then we kind of deal with her, then we eliminate all those negative beliefs about surrounding her body, her identity. Then forgiveness happen, and then they feel very truly empowered, and then they were like, whatever. Even I'll to tell you that sometimes what happens is that they are looking for opportunities to grow in life, but they are being held back by their own beliefs, which are surrounded.
Absolutely, that is what I mean. That is what I'm thinking.
Yes. And then when the healing happens, then they start realizing that all those opportunities, they start attracting them. So in so many ways, the blocked paths begin to open up for them. Opportunities begin to come to them. Supportive, encouraging, and empathetic people, they can begin to come across them. And this is, we see that how the flowering has happened. So this also, this aspect also needs to be included whenever we are talking about women, and that is the forging their spiritual identity also.
Shivi, yeah, thank you. That was very nice, Shivi, and I'm so glad that you are doing such a lot for women. It's wonderful. Like you rightly said, it's at the mental strength here. The only thing I would like to say, women are mentally strong. The only thing that holds them back is their belief that they're not mentally strong. So they like, when you talk about, I'm a Leo, my mother's a Leo, but the Leo kind of Leo I am and the kind of Leo she was, we are not as ferocious because the beliefs were different, the thought process was different, the ecosystem was okay. But it was wonderful. We've come to the end of the time, and I think it was a very, very engaging conversation. And I'm really grateful for all of you there. For closing remarks, I would again request Anil sir, who brought us all together and made the effort of doing that. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Seema. Thank you very much. And thank you all beautiful ladies. We started our conversation with Swati. Swati, I don't know whether you remember me or not.
Swati has dropped out. She said that she had to go somewhere. She just dropped out.
Swati has gone. So then Dr. Subi, of course, we are working together on various projects. And she's a wonderful resource for internet governance, Seema. I don't know whether you are aware or not. We were not able to involve her in IAGF, but she was one of the panelists in one of the session. But as a governing body, of course, she will be there with us. Isha is a ex-NIXI. I don't know whether you are aware or not. Isha is a ex-NIXI, and she keep on ditching one organization to another. She went from here to ICRIA. From ICRIA, she has gone to somewhere else. I don't know. But anyway, she is a great person. And Isha, we miss you today in the morning.
Right? Sorry. Next year I'll come for sure.
Shivi, thank you very much, and very nice meeting you. Aditya Aluwalia and Venkat are in front of me in my room itself. So they were all remembering you and praising you.
Thanks so much.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, ladies. And I think the message which has gone from this conversation is number one, that we have to make ourselves mentally strong, right? And we have to claim our right and our strength yourself. Nobody can help. This is what I think is most important. And second, now, because the whole world is going digital, I think it is very, very important that all of us should be more digital. And if you are digital, then your children, your grandchildren will be more digital. On this day, I on behalf of NIXI, can offer a free domain .in and .bharat to all you ladies. and you can get in touch with Shubham. My general manager will get in touch with you. So please have a domain, and Seema will provide a customized email. For example, say Swati, we will provide a email swati@swati.in. If Isha, will provide isha@isha.in. And similarly, we are also providing a Hindi email. For example, suvi@suvi.bharat. So this is absolutely free, both domain as well as email. Please take advantage of this, and let us next time. I would like that in case we can make a program where all of you can come physically in NIXI office. We'll celebrate together, and I think in a span of 1 year, the whole female brigade will be more stronger, right? And again, as Seema has said, that she want to see when we can celebrate a International Men Day in her lifetime. I hope it is possible, Seema, and we can do that. Thank you very much, everybody, and especially Seema, who has joined from Germany, especially for this day. And all of you, thank you very much for joining us. And let us spread this message of women's right, women's empowerment to everybody, whether they are our colleagues, over family friends. As Seema has said, सास ननद जो भी है, सबको आप जरूर बताइए कि women empowerment क्या होता है. And most important, over daughters is very, very important, because they are going to lead the future and all of us in the days to come. And I'll just, on this concluding, I was just listening to former Prime Minister of Ukraine day before yesterday on television. She's she is a lady, and like Seema was saying, that ferocious. She says that I am in Kiev, my president is Kiev, and it is not only my army which is fighting. Each and every citizen of Kiev is fighting, and we will not allow Russia to win over us. And I'll tell you, very, very interesting. She says that I only want how fast we can beat Russia. There is no thought of that Russia will capture them. And she is saying that we are looking at the western part, Europe and West, whether they can help us or they cannot help us. We don't want any yes, goody thing from you. Just do whatever we are saying, and we have made up our mind. This is the word which she said, we have made up our mind that we are going to win over Russia. So this is the strength which woman has. Anyway, all the best, and thank you very much, and happy International Day, and thank you very much for joining all of us. Thank you.
Thank you for having us, sir. Thank you.
A pleasure. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye, ladies.
Bye.
Bye.